Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back to Misinformation in Science and Society. Here to listen, not to judge. I'm your host Annie, and today with us we have Matt Kenyon.
Hi, Annie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for being here.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so let's just get started. Could you please introduce yourself a little bit and what you do?
Sure. My name's Matt Kenyon. I'm an artist. I'm also a professor at the University of Buffalo, where I'm the director of graduate studies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, why did you choose this career path initially?
Oh, well, um, I started out as an artist. I was originally a painting and a printmaker, painter and a printmaker, and then in graduate school, I had a really good experience teaching um, as a graduate student, and just sort of continued doing that. And
Yeah,
then, yeah, and then gradually my practice sort of moved from painting into using technology and design.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, So, what's your favorite part of what you do now?
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm super privileged. I get to hang out all day and talk to people about making art and talk to my students, at the undergraduate and graduate and PhD levels, about their ideas and how to like bring these crazy ideas into reality. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah.
So, why do you think that truth is so important, and why do you think misinformation is such a big issue, especially right now?
It's a really good question. And it's something increasingly more and more, we're thinking about and talking about in the areas of art and design, especially.
Mhm.
At the University of Buffalo, I belong to a group, a research group called the Center for Information Integrity, and we just started up um, just in the last couple of years. And that group brings together folks from computer science, faculty, students, is what I mean by folks,
Mhm.
brings together scientists and artists and people working in the humanities to look at that question, because I think often, um, we're so wrapped up in kind of technological solutions that we forget that arts and humanities have dealt with ideas of um, problematic fictions and misinformation, the role of all of those things within art. And so I think it's incredibly important, uh, to sort of interrogate things that are supposedly true, right?
Mhm.
With So in like art and design, we train people not just to make drawings and videos and interactive experiences, but also to slow down and observe the world, right?
Mhm.
That's part of the training of an artist and designer, is to learn to look and to kind of interrogate images, and that's a big part of our training. And I think that not only makes you a better artist, right, when you go to make your animations or your interactive works or whatever, but it also makes you a better citizen, because you're looking at things in the world and you're starting to notice things differently.
Mhm.
Maybe you've experienced this, like in editing a podcast. You start to see edits in the films and the television that you're watching, and the act of making something helps you to sort of move about the world in a more critical way.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, so could you talk a little bit more specifically um about the process of looking and interrogating a piece of art and yeah.
Well, an example maybe that comes out of my teaching from last semester.
Mhm.
I teach a class called Designed Play, and in that class, it was both a graduate and undergraduate course, kind of combined student groups, and they had an assignment where they were working with our CII group to make a group of games that were part of this initiative called DART, which is Deception, Awareness, Resilience Training. And their job was to make a game, a sort of interactive, like a video game, that increased awareness and resilience to online scams. And so, we were able to have conversations about all of our different experiences with that and those of our family members,
Yeah.
and then try to translate those into kind of playful, interactive games that would help audiences become more and more aware of that. And by
Mm-hmm.
using play, like, when we're playing a game, we can kind of put on a hat or, take a different approach
Yeah.
than we normally would in our daily lives. And so students, yeah, so a whole class of students made these games. And so, of course, there's the research part of it. Like, we discover all kinds of things by doing our research.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the research through making, all of the kind of different acts of discovery. And then we get to share that with people online. And then people play the games. And then we meet with them and talk to them about whether or not it communicated what we were trying to get across.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's fun.
Um, yeah. So what do you think like the worst type of misinformation is? Like about what?
Oh, gosh. Well, we have a lot to choose from, don't we?
Originally.
Well, climate change, of course, is probably the biggest one. I'm calling you from the west side of Buffalo, New York, where just a few weeks ago, we had an awful blizzard that killed so many members of our community here in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that, we know from science, right, that these sort of extreme weather events in the winters as well as in the summers, the forest fires, landslides, all these sort of things are brought about by human-driven climate change, right? And
Yeah.
uh, and so I think the kind of muddying of the waters and misinformation around that, um, is probably the biggest threat to like all life on Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe closer to home, some of the political misinformation surrounding vaccines and the last United States presidential election are probably things that are top of my mind these days.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think about the invention of technology and its like impact on misinformation?
Mm. Well, you know, there's this. Sometimes I like to use this quote by this punk rock musician Jello Biafra, who
Mm-hmm.
says, "Don't hate the media, become the media." And the reason I like it so much is not just because it's like a punk rock musician that I used to listen to when I was in high school and stuff like that, but sometimes we can get sort of frustrated when we see the sort of efficiency online that misinformation or disinformation, how widely and quickly it circulates. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we can think, oh, that's the media, shake our fist at the media or something like this. But um, I think looking at culture and technology as something that we actively participate in and have a responsibility, for, to a certain extent, as citizens and as artists and designers,
Mm-hmm.
we have a responsibility to hold platforms accountable. We have a responsibility for pushing for safeguards, certain kinds of technologies and things like that. And I think one of the important things is that artists and designers use technology within their practice, so that it is not just something that is in the hands of just a few people, in the media or in the economy or something like that, and
Yeah,
that we push the boundaries of what technology can do, um, and
sure.
for personal expression, not just for marketing and branding and news and politics, that kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Um, so we kind of touched on this a little bit, but what do you think? if there is a way, what do you think is like the best way to like eliminate or like avoid or like reduce misinformation?
Mm. Well, this is something I'm working on with my colleagues in the Center for Information Integrity. But I
Mm-hmm.
think an important part of it is that we don't look at it as the domain of one discipline or one area.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really important to bring together scientists and as well as artists and people working in the humanities to look at that because the problems that we're looking at are kind of big interdisciplinary problems, and the solutions need to be, large interdisciplinary solutions. And I know sometimes on campus, departments kind of get siloed, and they're doing very important research, but it's incredibly important that we talk to each other and work together because you know, if we look at it just as a technological problem, then we'll have technological solutions. And then the technology changes so quickly, then, it can be difficult to get sort of ahead of the curve in that way,
Yeah.
where I think a multidisciplinary approach that includes artists and designers and writers, who are, often in advance of some of the technologies that we have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. S- uh, yeah, I think that's all my questions about misinformation. So, just for fun, do you have like any like role models or like people that inspire you? Um, yeah, or like just like ideas that you find inspiring and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I think probably like a lot of people, who are working in education, I was inspired by early educators that I was lucky enough to come across. Um, and so like Richard Roth was my mentor in graduate school, who was incredibly influential to me. I was studying painting and printmaking, and he asked, had this kind of talent of asking probing questions to get me to think about my practice more broadly, and
Mm-hmm.
not just to make like images of systems of things, but that art uh, could be immersive and responsive and interactive, and
Mm-hmm.
it could be a system in itself, not just an image of a system or something that was pointing at something. And so that was super important to me, and helped me. Uh, you know, what's great is if you ever have a chance, you get these mentors who uh, give you permission to kind of follow your curiosities, and and that's I'm so privileged to be able to do that through my teaching and through my own individual practice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So just to close this out, do you have anything like else you would like to add about misinformation, or do you have any like advice for people, like especially like teens?
Oh yeah. Um, well, I have a project that I could share with you and your listeners or your audience members. I have a project called Alternative Rule, and so I was curious about different forms of printing. And it turns
Mm-hmm.
out there's a form of printing called microprint that's often used for printing money and counterfeit protecting legal documents. So it's
Uh-huh.
tiny, tiny little type. And I figured a way to print um, paper that uses this type as the lines of the paper.
Mm-hmm.
So I recently created, it's kind of a heavy subject, but it's a memorial for school children who've been killed or injured from gun violence. And I print the names as this micro printed lines of paper uh,
Uh-huh.
on the paper that we learned to write our cursive writing when we were kids. Maybe, I don't, do they still use that kind of paper when you're learning your lettering, like in grade school?
I didn't grow up in the United States and I never learned cursive, so I'm not sure, but
Okay, yeah. Well, So it's like this, it has a blue line and then a dash line and another
Uh,
one. Um,
mhm.
and so what I do is I mail the paper out to people and they encourage them to use it as stationery to
Yeah.
write members of government. And and in that way, it sort of helps to give presence to the lives that have been lost to gun violence in the United States, and also is a kind of circulating memorial.
Hmm.
So you can uh, request that paper through my website, which is SWAMP, SWAMP.NU, and I mail it all over the place for free. And just it's kind of a civic action project that might be of interest to you and some of your community.
I think that's like such an awesome project. Yeah,
Okay.
I love that. I will add the website in the description or
Okay.
yeah.
Where did
Awesome.
you grow up? You said you didn't grow up in the US?
Oh yeah, I grew up in Beijing in China and then I moved here like bit, in the beginning of eighth grade. Yeah.
Cool.
So a few years ago.
Cool. Cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if people still use this paper anymore, or if this is something, if they even teach um, cursive writing anymore. I'm not sure, but
Yeah. I think I've seen like the paper you were talking about, but I've never like used it. So
yeah, it's maybe
yeah.
more elementary school, maybe. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. So I think that will be all. Thank you so much again for being here.
Oh,
It
sure.
was really great talking to you, and I learned a lot. So yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, I think it's fantastic that you're running a podcast and reaching out to all the people that you are. And so keep it up and stay curious, you know.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Take care. Bye.
Bye.